At 10 seconds to 1, what sounded like music off in the distance began to play. 5 seconds to go, and I felt a wave of pain rush through my head.
Hey, spooky siblings. Monsters are real. Ghosts are real too. They live inside us.
Hey, spooky siblings. Welcome to Fear Fridays. My name is Red, and this is Left on Red. Today I will share a mysterious story of time glitch by R.L. Rogers. So, dear listeners, what would you do if you had 3 extra hours every single day? While you ponder that, let's jump in. I had been gone for years. My hometown, Singularity, located in an isolated part of Montana, was never enough for me. A place so strange and unusual, but with almost nothing to do. The day I turned 18, I packed my bags and set off to see the world. After 5 long years, I decided to go home to reunite with my family and friends. I was in Boston, Massachusetts, when I decided to go home. I took a taxi from my hotel to Logan Airport. My flight was for 9 in the evening, but I wanted to get there extra early to get things set and grab a few mementos for my history buff friend, Marcus. As I made my way through the airport, I saw a sign that had all the flights listed on it. I searched for mine. The closest town to Singularity was Great Falls, so that is where I'd be flying to. In the middle of one of the columns of listed flights, I spotted it. Boston to Great Falls, 9 p.m. Estimated arrival time, 25:25. Aren't there only 24 hours in a day? I laughed to myself. What a strange glitch. The fact that nobody else had noticed the mistake was also a bit weird. But I guess, with so many people moving about, nobody really had the time to stop and notice. I continued on to my gate to wait until boarding began. When it was time to board, I noticed a man in all black and sunglasses staring at me as I stood up.
Well, if it isn't Keanu Reeves from The Matrix, I stand an unproblematic king.
I don't know why, but I felt a shiver run down my spine. He didn't appear threatening, or like he was even going to approach me. Nonetheless, his gaze on me felt unusual. I ignored this feeling and boarded the plane. I found my seat without much trouble. I reserved a spot near the window, and the other passengers who would be sitting next to me had not yet boarded. I slipped up the little window cover and looked out over the airport. So many planes going to so many different places. When I first started my journey 5 years ago, I had wished to take every flight, to see as many new places as I could see. Now I was excited to finally see home again, a thought I'd never believe I would have. Some time passed before everyone had boarded and taken their seats, and soon enough the plane began to move. The flight from Boston to Great Falls is a little over 6.5 hours. I thought about using the time to get some sleep, but ultimately decided on ordering a drink from one of the flight attendants. Once we had reached cruising altitude, as I sat sipping my drink, I realized that the 2 seats next to me were still empty. I had been so preoccupied with taking in the views that I hadn't realized the seats remained vacant. I looked around the cabin. Every seat on the flight was taken. except for the ones next to me. More space for me, I supposed. I turned my gaze back out the window and continued sipping my drink. About 15 minutes before midnight, I heard someone sit down in the seat next to me. I turned to see that it was the man that had been staring at me back in the airport. "Hello," he said, offering me an awkward smile. "Hi," I replied awkwardly. "I don't mean to be rude, but why are you sitting next to me? The view is breathtaking, don't you think?" "I agree it is, but why makes the time pass quicker," he interrupted. Letting out a quick laugh, he continued. "Makes the time fly by so fast, one might think they have been staring out the window longer than there are hours in a day."
Creep alert! And that's coming from a literal ghost whose full-time job is creeping. Keanu Reeves would never. This dude is just some copycat. I don't stand.
I looked at him, confused by his comment. He blankly stared out the window and then turned his eyes back to me. "Do you believe that?" "Believe what?" "That there could be more hours in a day." "No, I don't. And if I'm being honest, you're beginning to sound like a crazy person. What is crazy but to look at the world in more unusual ways? To believe the impossible to be possible. Most people think it's a disease, something you can't cure. Sometimes sure, nothing else but chemicals in the brain running amok. But true crazy, now that's living." Sir, you're beginning to scare me. Please go back to your seat or I'll ask the air marshal to remove you." In the blink of an eye, he pulled out a pocket watch from his pocket and dangled it in front of my face by the chain. I looked at him, baffled by his behavior. I began to stand and call for the marshal when he grabbed me by the wrist. I looked at him, fear beginning to come over me. "I don't mean to frighten you, but merely open your mind to something new."
Uh-oh. Sounds like he's about to pitch an MLM. Run, my friend. Oh, wait. You're on a plane. Put on your headphones and pretend to sleep.
Cautiously, I sat back down. He drew my attention back to the pocket watch. It swung back and forth perfectly, as if we were sitting on solid ground. "Look closely at the watch. See how it moves? See how it ticks. Something about it is different than any other watch." "What do you mean?" "Just look at the watch." I stared at the watch, carefully examining it. Then I saw it. The watch is in military time. Yes, but what else? What other thing stands out about this particular watch? Again, I looked closely at the watch. As I stared, something stuck out at me. It has 27-hour markings? Yes. Now why would a watch count 27 hours instead of 24? Because it was made wrong? Some kind of reference to something? No. You see, the reason this watch is particularly different is because it grants its owner an extra 3 hours of the day. Imagine, what would you do with such extra time?
Ooh, I know. Watch one more Bollywood movie per day.
Good choice, Polty.
Thanks.
Back to the story. I stared blankly at the man. Did he think I was such an idiot that I'd believe his ramblings about some stupid pocket watch? Of course, there can't be more than 24 hours in a day. My will to try and remain civil with this man was quickly wearing away now. "Sir, Chris," he interrupted. "What?" "That's my name, Chris." Okay, Chris, I'm sorry, but your ramblings about this stupid pocket watch is beginning to get onto my nerves. Now, unless you have some kind of proof that... Chris's hands quickly grabbed mine, startling me. He placed the watch in my hand, staring at me intently as he did so. I gift you the watch of Raven Valley, where time is strange and the impossible possible. I looked down at the pocket watch. It was a few seconds to midnight. I watched as it ticked away. 3, 2, 1. Midnight. Nothing. I looked up to say something to Chris, but he was gone. I poked my head up to see where he had gone. I felt fear rush over my entire body, looking around the cabin of the plane only to see every passenger in the plane motionless, staring at the seat in front of them. As I got up to investigate things further, I also noticed that there was no sounds. The noise of the plane engine had gone quiet, yet the plane flew on. I also noticed that there was no turbulence whatsoever. Feeling a combination of shock and fear, the only thing I could now bring myself to do was return to my seat. The next time I looked at the watch, it read 25:03. A loud ding echoed throughout the cabin, and the pilot began to speak. He announced that we would be beginning our descent in a moment, and we were to buckle our seatbelts. I watched as the entire cabin, in unison, buckled themselves in. What the heck is going on? The words came out of my mouth as strangely as the scene around me. Soon after, we began our descent. After landing and the jet bridge being connected to the plane, row by row, passengers stood up, grabbed their luggage, and exited the plane. I waited until everyone had gotten off before I stood to grab my things. As I exited the plane, the flight attendants glared at me as I walked past them. I did not stop to use the bathroom, which I very much needed to do, but simply made my way through the airport as fast as I could. Outside, there was a row of taxis. I walked up to one and asked the driver if they were available. He creepily replied in a monotone voice, "I am available." I paused a moment before getting into the cab. I told the cabbie my destination and the cab started off. I pulled out the watch to look at it again. It read 26:05. The drive to Singularity was an hour or so away from the airport. What would happen when the clock went back to 1? As we got close to the edge of Singularity, I looked at the clock. 30 seconds until it would read 1. I watched as the second hand ticked away. At 20 seconds to go, I started hearing a low humming noise. At 10 seconds to 1, what sounded like music off in the distance began to play. 5 seconds to go, and I felt a wave of pain rush through my head.
Yeah, time travel will do that to you, buddy. Nothing some chamomile tea can't fix.
3, 2, 1. The radio began blasting music, the small bumping of the car as it raced through the street, and the cabbie began talking to me as if we had been in the middle of a conversation the whole ride. I shouted for him to turn it down as he was mid-sentence. He looked at me in the rearview mirror and nodded his head. As he turned it down, I realized that my heart was nearly beating out of my chest. I took a minute to get my breathing under control, slowly inhaling and exhaling. "How long until we arrive?" I asked the cabbie, still feeling my heart beating quicker than usual. "About 10 minutes or so, sir." "And the time?" Do you mean what time we will be arriving at? No. What time is it right now? 1:02 in the morning, sir.
Wait, so I'm confused. Is Chris wannabe Keanu a Hunbot or not?
I guess we'll never find out. And that was Fear Friday. My name is Red, and this is Left on Red. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and press the bell notification button so that you get notified every time Polty and I upload a new video. Until next time.